Hello, and welcome to Warhammer 40k's Grim History from the Beyond. I am Zeckthar,
And I'm Yuksen.
and we are the chroniclers of all that was, and all that will be in the 41st millennium. We've seen the rise and fall of many empires, yet this month we will be taking leave of the grim world of Warhammer and going on vacation.
Right you are, Zeckthar. This month we have traveled to the strange world of Terran 42, or what the locals call it, Earth. We landed near the city known as Seattle to take in the sights and food of the city, yet while we are here, we will continue our walks.
Indeed, Yuksen. Yet we will be taking a break from our normal historical chronicling. We figured we'd let you, fine people of the galaxy, take a break as well, and discuss one of our favorite games, Dungeons and Dragons.
Quite right, brother. It is good to take a break away from the drudgery of life and simply play a fun game. Well, what are we going to discuss today?
Well, today we are joined once again by Secrona.
Again, please, people, you are far too kind.
You honor us, Secrona. I was ecstatic that you would guest star for a week, but two? I'm honestly beside myself.
Thank you, Yuksen. Honestly, the main reason why I'm here is because I made a mistake last week. I forgot to bring you guys my favorite ale.
Huzzah! I completely forgot you were a beer connoisseur like ourselves.
Indeed, my taste buds are a tingle, but what beer are we going to be trying today?
I'm glad you asked. I brought one of my personal favorites, a hybrid stout / port known as Irish Death from the brewery local to the state of Washington known as the Iron Horse Brewery.
Thank you, Secrona. But what should we toast to?
Well, how about your funny robot Bob?
Ugh.
What? If it wasn't for him, we never would have met the first time. Some 15 years ago?
Pardon my brother, Secrona. You see, Bob is... how shall I put this delicately?
He's a dunderhead.
Yes, well, I guess you would think that, Yuksen. But that's a bit unfair. Quite frankly, it was one of his mistakes that brought us to you, Secrona.
Really?
Yeah, we're looking for a Macrona field, a small displacer field that relocates and reforms molecules. Both Zeckthar and I were surprised that Bob said that he found it on your backwater planet. When we showed up at your place, he kept pointing at you. It was at that moment I contemplated melting Bob into scrap.
Oh, yeah, I remember. You did seem pretty irritated. I almost crapped my pants when I turned around to find you three in my house.
Yes, well, I'm glad cooler heads prevailed and that this is where our friendship began.
Indeed, Zeckthar, I was far happier to meet a new friend rather than dissolve a terrified human.
That's funny, Yuksen, but you weren't seriously going to dissolve me, were you?
My apologies, Secrona. I never would have done that. I will have atomized you.
To Bob! To Bob!
Yes, to Bob, who I apparently owe more than I thought, than just my friendship.
Fine, to Bob.
Well, what do we have in store for today?
I'm Kulu.
Hush on the name.
Right. But this stuff's pretty good. Far better than that Fenrisian ale. Well, we've invited you to talk yet again about D&D and what your favorite artifacts, creatures, and weapons are. How about we start with the weapons?
Okay, well, it's pretty obvious that the weapon you choose depends on your character. For instance, one of my favorite classes to play is the rogue, so preferably the type of weapons that I tend to use are rapiers and daggers. Mostly rapiers, because rapiers, when it comes to dealing damage, especially with something like sneak attack, top notch. However, if you do the knife class right, the knife subclass for rogue right, daggers start becoming very dangerous tools of the trade. Especially if you start getting into, since I personally finding enchanted daggers a lot easier in these campaigns. DM's more likely to give out an enchanted dagger than they are an enchanted rapier, so.
Right. Well, not only that, but you can actually have like a whole bunch of daggers and throwing them becomes more of a skill, right?
Yeah. You start becoming more of a ranged character without actually having to... You could both have your melee weapons and your ranged weapons be the same thing.
Can you actually throw your rapier?
You can once.
Okay. Well, I was just kind of wondering if they actually had the mechanics for that.
I actually
don't-
don't. I've never tried it. I guess it would be something I have to experiment with at some point.
Really wig out your DM. And so I threw my rapier. Huh?
How far away is he? He's about 10 feet. He's about 20 feet out of your running distance. I walk up 20 feet and I chuck my rapier at the back of his head.
Okay.
Roll with disadvantage.
Yeah.
Twice.
Twice. Well, okay, so you prefer a rapier, but what about swords? Now, okay, I know obviously, anyways, you're as a rogue, you're not going to carry a
Despite the
two-handed.
fact that rapier is a sword.
No.
Oh, for the love of Pete Yuksen.
Yes,
Yes,
but
we all understand a rapier is a sword, but it's a different class of sword.
it's a finesse weapon, which means
Yeah.
you get to use your dexterity, which when you're playing a rogue, which you want super high dexterity to begin with, having a rapier, a weapon based on dexterity for hitting things is really good.
Top notch, one might say.
Exactly.
But what I mean by swords is like, okay, so obviously you're not going to be wielding, a giant great sword. But what about the well, there's two swords I'm thinking of in particular. One is a short sword. Doesn't it kind of have the same capabilities as a rapier?
I'm actually not sure about that. I haven't experimented with the short sword at all, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
I assume it'd be easier to throw.
Good
I
point.
guess.
But then the other one is the dexterity one, where it's the one-handed sword, where you can use it in one hand or you can use it with two.
That's versatile. That's different. Versatile
Right.
essentially allows you to has nothing to do with your dexterity. It's entirely based on, do you want to deal more damage? Do you want to deal a D10's worth of damage, or would you rather have your other hand free, just deal 1d8, but have your other hand free to do whatever? So in other words, it's great for paladins who, oh, well, now I've got a hand for my sword, but I can also carry a big old shield with me to increase my
Right.
DC. My
But
AC, not my DC.
The only other finesse like sword would be the scimitar.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's like what, a little bit, I think it does a little bit more damage than a short sword, right?
No, it's just a different
No?
type of damage. In comparison to a short sword where it's piercing, scimitar is slashing. Be a little
Ah.
hard to, poke somebody with the scimitar if you think about it.
I mean, you could try.
Well,
It's got
I
a
bet
one
it can be
pointy
done.
end at the very end. Just
yeah, it could be done, but seriously.
Maybe we could get a grot and try it out. Well, anyways, so those are kind of pretty much what you're going to be using with a rogue. Oh, except for I think Yuksen, you were going to talk about anyways the hand crossbow. That's the other one that rogues like to use quite a bit.
The benefit of a hand crossbow is the fact that, first of all, it isn't heavy. It isn't two-handed. So, like, it's excellent if, for example, you had a rapier. You could be using your rapier after you took a shot with the hand crossbow. So it's a quick,
It's got a decent range to it,
fire.
right?
It has a better range than a dagger, but
I was just about to say you can get close anyways. Use your hand crossbow and start throwing daggers at the other hand. Truly confuse people. Now, obviously, anyways, with the hand crossbow, I mean, probably the most famous of that's got to be what, the Drow crossbow.
yeah.
And they're known anyways for having what is it, that like it's like a sleeping.
Some of them, it's like, oh yeah, they're using poisoned / damage dealing. Other one is, if you get hit and you don't succeed, you're asleep for X amount of hours.
Right. Now, real quick before we move on, anyways, to what you're going to be talking about, Yuksen, because your favorite character is the monk and the weapons they use. Secrona, have you ever gotten any like cool weapons that you've used with your rogues?
Yes, actually. During the first edition of Pathfinder that I played before second edition was even released, I played a knife master, which essentially is whenever you deal sneak attack damage, instead of dealing just a d6 worth of sneak attack damage. It's a D8 instead, but it has to be specifically with a dagger. So the DM gave me a dagger that I had to keep feeding other daggers to. But once I finished giving it, like, it was like 500 daggers fed to it, which
What?
it was a
500?
process. There was a lot of shenanigans that happened in order to make that work. But when I did, it became a dagger return, which means I got to chuck it as much as I want, but it immediately returned to me.
Ah. So you had pretty much a bracer of daggers, but only one of them.
Exactly.
So it just popped to my head is every single time you went to a shop going, I need 500 daggers. We only have 6.
Ew.
We have 6.
Oh, I don't take them all.
There was
I know
one
you have some in
point
the back
where
somewhere.
there was one point where there was like chaos in the a castle that we were visiting, and like I think it was the king's throne room. So we were leaving, and there's like pandemonium happening, and my guy literally took advantage of it, started running past all the shops, and just kind of stuck his dagger out and started absorbing all the daggers as he ran by.
But just out of curiosity, anyways, when you throw the dagger and it returns, are you actually like, is it like a 500 shot thing, anyways, where you run out of daggers after 500 and then you have to go collect more daggers? Oh,
no, it's just forever. It's just the dagger of return forever.
That would have been actually kind of interesting. So how many daggers are you down to now? 450. Okay.
We're still good. Don't need to make any pit stops.
Yeah.
And then you
would have made that worse if it was like
going, oh crap, I can't throw this thing anymore.
You only got 10.
I need to make him count. Although
that
is the same campaign where I managed to kill a guy with a torch from the top of a cliffside, so I wasn't missing too many of my shots with my dagger.
Oh wow, that's actually pretty impressive.
I threw a torch, I missed. Threw another torch, rolled a 20. Guy dies immediately.
That's just a bad day for that guy. Got bonked in the head and it killed you with a torch being thrown, but like 30 feet away.
Well, no, it was much worse. No. You don't understand. It was a deep cliffside. Like, think, what is it, Princess Bride? You know, where they're climbing up that cliffside.
Oh,
think from like the top of there, and they're in the water, and I chucked a freaking torch at one of them.
It's because you went, what the heck was that?
The first torch
sees the torch randomly go by, and then he looks up and.
No, it was more. Oh no, he saw that I was there. I yelled at them, made sure they saw me, chucked one. They all pointed and laughed at me. Chucked another one, smacked him dead between the eyes.
By the way, I misspoke there. It's actually in the Princess Bride, if I recall right. It's the Cliffs of Insanity.
Yeah. Cliffs of Insanity. Yes.
Yes.
It's so too late. We're at the Cliffs of Insanity. Duh.
He's gaining. Well, he's not carrying 3 people.
Giant mythical beast, and yet he gains.
Yeah. Anyways, Yuksen, could you discuss anyways your favorite weapons for the monk?
Okay, so for the monk, the favorite weapons is martial weapons because you get benefits off of them. But they consider martial weapons, they're simple weapons, and short swords. Why short swords? We have no idea. But the most common one that monks generally wield because they have that two-handed versatility ability is the quarterstaff. So with one hand, you do 1d6. If you use 2 hands, it's 1d8. They do have a couple of ways to get around that so you can use better weapons. One of them is a path you can choose is called the Way of the Kensei, which allows you to select martial weapons, and you can treat those as monk weapons, like add ki to them and stuff. But they also came out with an optional ability where so long as your character has a proficiency in it, they can, like, between a short or long rest, touch a thing that they have proficiency in and consider it a monk weapon. So you could have like a dwarf, which is proficient in a warhammer, get to go, yes, I'm a monk with the giant hammer. But
did you ever do that?
No, I've only played 2 campaigns, remember?
Yeah.
Let's
Yes,
see.
I
I
know.
played a half orc monk and a wood elf barbarian.
Okay. And you did play a monk, so I was asking the question because I know the answer to it, and Secrona knows the answer to it. But do you think anybody that's listening knows the answer to it? No. Anyways, so which was actually
Echo.
your favorite weapon? If I recall right, at the end of the campaign, you really were doing more hand-to-hand stuff, hand-to-hand combat. So using your fists. Well, I mean, you had those like brass knuckle things, but you're
Yeah,
pretty
well,
much
even
just doing
before that, I was over time as your monk grows, the damage you do in hand to hand, unarmed, increases. So by about the time that we're coming towards the end of the campaign, using pretty much any weapon would have been pointless because I was doing about the same amount of damage. And then on top of that, I had those gloves of wushu or whatever they were called, which gave them a
right.
plus like 2 to damage and to hit. So yeah, at that point, it was just made more sense to just do hand to hand than use any weapons, really.
D&D, one of the few places where you can literally punch harder than you can hit things with a weapon.
Well, only if you have the superior skill of a monk.
Exactly. Why? Because
now
late level monks are essentially the fighter equivalent of late level wizards. They're okay at the beginning, but when they get further on, holy crap!
Now, before we move on, anyways, Secrona, have you ever played a monk?
I've never played a monk. No, I've been
But have
tempted
you
a couple of times, but seeing as how I mostly play Pathfinder 2, and apparently they're not nearly as good in that as they are in 5e, it's kind of swayed me not to. So I've been experimenting with other classes.
Gotcha. Have you, other than the one campaign you played with Yuksen, have you ever played with somebody, a team that had a monk?
Nope.
No. Nope. Apparently, the monk
They're
is fallen by
that
the
unfavored in Pathfinder.
What was that?
They're that unfavored in Pathfinder.
They're definitely not nearly as broken. I think it was because of the fact that the people who did Pathfinder essentially looked at the monk, saw how broken they were. It's like, yeah, we don't want any particular class to be that busted. So no, you don't get all those goodies.
Broke is relative.
True. I mean,
anyways, because when you first start out, you can't really do anything with ki pretty much because you have so little of it. And in comparison to like all of the other hand-to-hand ones other than rogues, you get less health per level.
Okay, yeah, but at the same time, no one can hit you.
Well, you could say the same about a barbarian.
Okay. Here's the thing.
No,
That's kind of
barbarians are different. Barbarians get hit; they just don't die.
That's a good point. I mean, if you look at all of them, anyways, by the time you get to like level 15, I mean, most of them are pretty broken by that point. I mean, they can pretty much take on entire armies by themselves, other than probably the berserker or the barbarian. The barbarian starts off pretty good, but he doesn't level up nearly as well as the rest of them do, in my opinion. They're probably the simplest character that you can play. I mean, you guys agree with that, right?
Either that or fighter.
Okay, fighter though. Once you get higher levels, anyways, you can do some pretty cool stuff with them. They tend to branch out a little bit better than. Okay, there are certain paths that you can take with a fighter that makes them even more simplistic. But honestly, the most simple one's got to be the barbarian berserker. They don't really do anything after you get to like level 3 where you can enrage. After that, anyways, they just build up stats.
Oh, that's not entirely true. They make it easier for when you fall. I mean, essentially, you start getting to the point where literally you get the too angry to die situation where you just keep hitting things and you just can't go down because of it. I hit something. I gain health because of it. I get hit. Oh no, I'm down to 1. Well, guess what? I'm still standing. Let me hit something and get those points back.
Well, especially if you're an orc or a half orc, because
Yeah.
they've got that racial ability, anyways, that they can't die the first
Endurance.
time. Yeah, they just go to 1 hit point. But speaking of barbarians, the weapons for barbarians, anyways. Okay, I know Yuksen, you kind of disagree with me on this, but axes have got to be the way to go, right? I mean, big old axes, anyway, to thump people down with. I mean, what is it? The great axe, anyways, actually has the most. That's the biggest dice that you can roll, right?
D12.
Yeah, it's a D12.
Eh,
Okay, go ahead, Yuksen. I knew you were going to disagree with this, but go ahead.
Here's the thing. Okay, yes. Great Axe does 1d12. But a great sword, this is why it generally costs more, is 2d6.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can both reach the same amount, but the lowest that you get is worse with the great axe than with the great sword.
By 1.
That 1 can be the defining.
Not only that, but you cut your concept into 2 pieces. So let's say, anyways, I'm rolling a D12, right? And I roll an 8. To get that, anyways, you're going to have to come up with that number, anyways, with 2 dice.
Right? Which you can do with 3 and 5, 5 and 3, 4 and 4, 2.
Uh-huh.
You want me to start going down this list?
No, the only ones that you can do other than that is a 2 and a 6.
2 and a 6, 6, 2, 4, 4, 5, 3, 3, 5. So you have 5 chances.
No, 4, 3 won't get you there. That only gets to 7.
No, 5, 5, 5,
5.
3, 4, 6, 2. There's
Okay,
5.
So 6
to
and
make this
2, that's
easy-
1. A 6 and 2 was 1. A 5 and a 3 is 2. And a 4 and 4 is 3. You have 3 chances.
No. Because you can roll.
You don't get to repeat the.
No, you're
You
rolling
don't get to
2 die.
swap a 3 and a 5 and a 5 and a 3. Call it 2 different sections.
It's
That's
the
not how
same
math
thing.
works.
Okay,
It's the
you're rolling
same-
2 dice at the same time. You can get 8 by one of them being a 5 and the other one being 3. You can also get 8 if the first one was a 3 and the second one was a 5.
That's still the same 2 numbers. You just swapped them around.
Exactly. Anyways.
It's the same.
Never mind. You
numbers.
don't get the idea of probability, apparently.
It's the same
Yuksen.
probability.
Moving on.
Anyways, what I'm saying is that with 1 dice, anyways, you're putting all your eggs in 1 basket, and with 2, you've got 2. So to me, anyways, I'd prefer, or with the greatsword, you've got 2. So to me, anyways, I'd rather have 1 in hand and then how many ever, anyways, are in the bush, if that makes sense. Now, on the other hand, anyways, if you're
It's
using
called
like
1 in the hand in comparison to 2 in the bush, by the way.
exactly. So thank you for proving my point. 1 in hand is better than 2 in the bush. AKA 1 dice that's a D12 is significantly better than 2 D6s, in my opinion. One's in the bush.
I actually kind of agree with Yuksen here. Now that I think about it, I was originally going to say the great axe, but now that I think about it, now that I'm thinking about it, actually the probability thing, I kind of get what Yuksen's going with. I still think if you're rolling the dice 1 at a time, yes, the probability is higher to get like something like an 8 or whatever. But again, the least amount of damage you can roll is 2 versus a D12, which is 1. Which means it is just a benefited 1 extra damage guaranteed, at least.
I was going to say, honestly, if I was going to use a greatsword as a barbarian, I'd probably go with Bear Totem.
Yeah. Well,
it's the tank version.
I generally would go with Totem anyways, just because you're going to be the person that all the creatures are going to be running at. And you
Well-
actually have the ability to. One of the totems I believe you can do is basically say anybody that doesn't attack me that's in line of sight suffers at disadvantage. So they all want to attack you. You might as well have half the damage of whatever you get hit with.
Right, but I mean, as a barbarian, you can only pick one totem.
Yeah, well, there's the totem, the aspect, and then the I forget what the third one is.
So totems, there's
three
what,
stages.
4 of them? I think there's 4
There's-
of them. There's bear, eagle, wolf, and crap. I don't even remember what you remember what the other one is.
There's 5 of them.
No, I do not.
Okay.
There was originally 3, and now there's 5.
Ah.
The original 3
but-
were bear, eagle, and wolf, and then later they came out with elk and tiger.
Tiger.
Yep.
Okay, whatever. But the reason why I would use it for a bear totem is just simply because the greatsword for a bear totem is because then you can pick up a shield, which makes it even harder to pummel you.
Except for you couldn't do that with the great sword because the great sword requires 2 hands. Same with the great axe.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
I figured with the sword, anyways, you could thump pretty hard on someone with one. Okay, whatever. There's no way that you can actually make it so that you can use a great sword in one hand.
Nope.
Not even feet.
I'm looking that up.
Okay. Well, while Yuksen looks that up, real quick, Secrona, what was? Let's move on a little bit away from weapons, shall we? I mean, we did kind of talk a little bit about our artifact weapons, but what was your all-time favorite artifact that you ever picked up?
Well, besides the dagger that I had, it have to be when I was playing James Hetfield and I got the magical box and the magical lyre, aka the guitar and amp. That was pretty fun artifact. We got magical spells based on the songs that I played and got to base some songs off some real life songs that I love listening to, and they did some pretty awesome things. Like I got to summon an undead unicorn, got to summon a kraken like we talked about last time.
Right. You had a couple others. Chasing the Dragon, I think, was one of your songs.
Allowed me to breathe dragon's breath.
Right.
One time. There was Stairway to Heaven, which allowed me to see if people would fight for me for a bit.
And that one, if I recall right, you only really used once. I was actually kind of surprised you only used it once.
Well, it's because it's the whole mentality of I don't know when I'm going to need this, and so you're always holding back on using it because you're like I don't know when I'm going to need this, and then by the time you eventually get around to using it, it's like well, and I missed my chance, and it's our campaign's already over. So,
actually, now that I think about it, I'm really surprised you didn't use it anyways when you guys battled Athena.
I thought I did. No, we didn't. That's right. I can't even. That's actually really. Well, maybe it was just because I felt brave because we had a silver dragon with us.
That's a good point.
A silver and a gold dragon, I think. I think we had 2 dragons with us, and they both died.
No, I think it was
Athena, so I guess that makes sense.
No, I think Sorry. I think it was just the silver dragon.
No, we also had a gold dragon with us.
Was okay? Well, wait. No. The gold dragon was when you guys were battling all the frost giants at the top of that one mountain.
Yeah, and he joined us, and that's where he died. He lived when we got him back to the top of his mountain, and then he joined us to meet Athena, and then he decided to turn into a gold dragon while we fought Athena, and then he died.
Okay, I don't remember that part.
I definitely remember he died, and it was before we got sent back to the past, which is a whole different story.
Right.
But
that's where you met Gary.
Yeah, that's where we met Gary. That wonderful piece of work.
Well, and if I recall right, actually, you could use your lyre as a weapon too.
Yes, because it also the body was also shaped like an axe, or the bottom half of the body was shaped like an axe, so I could actually pick it up by the neck and start wielding it. But of course, I had a -5 in strength, so I never used it really as a weapon, except maybe like once or twice.
I think you did a couple of times just in desperation.
I thought you could use it as a finesse. We later changed it, so it's kind
No,
of like
no,
a
we could never
rapier,
use it as
basically.
finesse. It was always just no. It's just an axe. It is literally just an axe. That's all we ever used. And so it was like, no, this is like last ditch effort. I'm not going to use this as a melee weapon unless I've got literally no other spells or anything else I could do. Which I think only happened like once or twice because once we started leveling up, I had lots of spell slots to use.
Right. I mean, by that point, I mean, as a bard, you're normally not wanting to get into hand-to-hand combat anyways. Unless you're, what is it? A sword dancer?
Yeah, sword dancers are the ones that tend to.
No, they're just bards of the College of Swords.
Oh, okay. But I thought there was also another one called sword dancers.
I
think that's actually a subclass for wizards.
What?
No.
That doesn't make any sense. No, Yuksen.
Oh, wait, those are spell swords. Never mind. I think. I don't know. Hold on. By the way, there isn't a way to wield a heavy weapon with one hand that I've been able to find anyways.
Oh, that's too bad. They should have something like that. Well, anyways, are you look what were your favorite artifacts there, Yuksen?
One of them was the Cloak of Displacement, but that's because it's kind of homebrew, and since I was really out of the two of us, since there's only two of us, I was the front line. The majority of it. It really helped because they couldn't hit me the majority of the time because they'd constantly have disadvantage. And then the other one was the cubic gate, which, well, actually, there was the holder statue also, which allowed me to summon Beholder. She did twice. And
if I recall right, it went south on you though, didn't it?
What?
The second time? It went south on you, I think, both times.
Well, the second time, I ended up screwing you over, Zeckthar. Well, actually, you ended up kind of screwing yourself over. But that was because I'm just like, let's book it out of there. And then we're in the middle of enemy territory. I'm just like, I'll use the cubic gate, which if you press a button on one of its 6 sides, you'll be able to travel through to a different plane. And it's up to the DM's choice to choose the plane. And you chose
ours.
Exactly.
The world of Warhammer 40K. Yep. That was fun.
By the way, before your audience decides to try to correct you, a sword dancer is not a bard. It is a cleric.
Well, what's the one anyways that the bard has? I know there's one for the bard. I thought it was.
Bard is College of Swords. Because they have colleges. They don't even have sub things. They're called colleges.
Oh. Well, anyways, my couple favorites anyways that I got to watch.
Because bards always go to college.
Of course.
Try to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
How else are they going to learn the many traits of music?
Right.
Bards.
Quick question for you guys. Which do you prefer anyways when you're playing? A lot of artifacts or little artifacts?
I guess it depends on how they're being distributed out to players and how essentially it depends on I would say closer to a little, like maybe somewhere in the middle between a lot and a little, mainly because if you have it's nice to have quite a few different artifacts to be with you, but once you start gaining so many that you start using less of the other ones to the point where it's just taking up inventory and you keep going, oh, I forgot I had this. Oh, now it's too late because the campaign's over. Oh, I forgot I had this. Well, that would have been helpful for this fight. Too bad it's buried down in my list of things. So it's like or if it starts getting to the point where it's like too chaotic, where people can't do, essentially it starts taking over all your skills. It starts making things too easy. That's when I feel like it starts becoming a problem. But if you start getting one of your their opponents, every one of the enemy NPCs start becoming more powerful, and your players are just using basic weapons with nothing to really help them, it could start becoming a problem. So I lean a little more towards a little, but
So kind of more like middle ground then.
middle ground. Middle ground is exactly what you want.
Although I will say, I'm pretty sure we can all agree on this anyways. The one artifact that everybody should have is the bag of holding.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. That should just be a standard.
Everybody should actually just start with that, in my opinion. But although it could be interesting playing one where that doesn't exist. Although then I think you would find the same problem that you have with like a lot of like RPG games or video games, where all of a sudden you just have like all this stuff that you want to keep, but you run out of space. So you're like,
Like,
what am
you
I
can
doing?
only have 5 items.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually how I play a lot of my campaigns, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we don't get bags of holding.
That's sad.
So, or like
Well,
one
I'm pretty
person in the
sure you
party will
had
get a bag
more
of
than
holding.
5 knives.
That's a good. Oh no. Well, okay, so if I recall right, from the knife that you're talking about, it literally just like sucks up the energy of the other dagger, right?
No,
Is it-
but you know, you have to have a few daggers to be able to keep throwing them. I mean, it's
That's
not
what a
like
backpack's
I
for.
have 2 daggers. I'll be able to keep throwing these forever. Are they special? No. Okay, you got 2 shots.
You see, Yuksen. That's why you have a backpack for an adventurer's pack.
Ah, that
carry
way,
the
while
stuff in.
people are attacking you, you have to dig through the backpack.
Well, actually, most rogues that I know that use daggers, Yuksen, they have actually like a bracer of daggers, so it's almost like a bandolier for people with like shotguns and stuff, but they're daggers instead. So they're actually still wearing them on their body, but they can just kind of pull them off and huck them, if that makes sense. Real quick, anyways, before we move on to those crazy creatures, anyways, on D&D, what do you guys think of homebrew? I love using homebrew, honestly, but what do you guys think?
I think it's easier not to use homebrew, to be honest. It makes it easier, so you're like, oh, just turn to this, and you don't have to guess what its abilities are, or the DM. It makes it easier for the DM because the DM could just look through the book and go, okay, it does this, done, move on with the story. But if you're it is nice to have some homebrew. Again, it's kind of the same thing with having a lot of items or not a lot of items. You kind of want that middle ground. If you're going to introduce homebrew, then no more than like a middle ground where it's like, like maybe no more than half the stuff you're using is homebrewed and everything else is standard. It should never exceed half.
Right. Well, not only that, but I mean, honestly, I think anyways, homebrew, you can do it very well or you can do it very poorly. It has to be definitely discussed with the DM, and the DM really has to look over it and be like, okay. And a lot of times anyways, as the DM, you actually help the person anyways come up with their homebrewed item. Because you're like, okay, this can't be super powerful, but we can let some things slide. I mean, you say this about homebrew. The funny part is that your guys' favorite artifacts, there was 2 of them that were not homebrew.
There was 4 total. That weren't homebrew. Yeah. No.
Yeah, the cloak of displacement and the cubic gate.
The Cloak of Displacement did end up being the homebrew because we changed the rules on it.
No, because we didn't read the rules right on it. That's why it became homebrew. But technically, that is something that is actually in the artifacts book, along with the cubic gate. But all the rest of them, anyways, those are all homebrew stuff. Now, like I said, though, you have to really make sure, anyways, that you button that stuff down. I mean, me and you, Secrona, we went over that guitar and amp. We went over that for like a week, making sure, anyways, that it wasn't like super overpowering, but it was going to be like a really fun thing for you to use. And then later on, we actually added like different songs that you could play, anyways, that would give you different spells. And you came up with a couple of them, and I think I came up with one. But a good example, anyways, there's I think it's called the Alley's Claws. And another thing about homebrew, to get you kind of, if you want to do something that's homebrew, there's actually a couple sites that you can find anyways on the internet, and it's just literally lists of like homebrew stuff that people came up with.
Right.
And then you can kind of tweak them and whatnot. But one of them, anyways, that I always found interesting was called, I think, the Alley Claws, and they were 2 daggers, and they were when you threw one dagger, anyways, you could literally, if you had the other dagger, you could teleport to where that dagger was, which sounds really cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, for instance, I was always thinking of it like, for instance, if you're an assassin or a rogue or something like that, you could huck the dagger at the person that you're charging anyways from behind and stick them. And then your next move, and then the next thing you can do is like literally teleport right behind him anyways and shank him with the other alley cat, which sounds like really cool. But I was talking to some of the people in the campaign I was running with, and one of the guys is like, well, yeah, you could do that, but that's just too easy anyways to really muck up your campaign. I'm like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, think about it. You could have a wizard anyways that actually could like hold up anyways a teleporter to like a king, and you could throw the alley, one of the alley claws through there anyway, stick it, teleport there, and then kill the king, and then throw it back out, and then huck out and disappear before anybody even knew you were there. Well, I didn't really think about that. He's like, yeah. So that is the problem with homebrew, because somebody will think of anyways something that you haven't thought of, and then they'll ruin everything. A lot of times. Sometimes they don't.
So that's why I think one of the things that made Secrona's guitar thing better is because of the fact that instead of it being a whole bunch of homebrew items, it was just that one item, and then it slowly grew as the campaign went on. So having something like that where it's like, oh yeah, it might be weak, but something we'll hold on to because it slowly over time will grow and become better along with you, it sort of matches the flow of the game.
Yeah. And honestly, that I think that's one of the things that made it kind of interesting. What do you think, Secrona?
I think, again, if you go with the concept of you have to really hammer it out, and if you want to expand on your items, that's a fine idea, but really have to nail it through with your DM first. And again, if you want to start with like a weaker item and grow it as you go through, that's also fine. Or have like an weaker item that's already from the game, and then slowly homebrew it to be better as time goes on. So it's like a standard 5e item, but then you keep increasing how good it gets. That's also an idea, I think.
Okay, before we move on anyways to the crazy creatures, I will have one other thing I want to say about homebrew. The one thing that I do like about homebrew is that you can really establish it for the character that you're playing, which I think is kind of cool. It kind of builds more on your character that you're playing. Like, for instance, I don't think you could really, we would have never even come up with that concept of the guitar and the amp if it wasn't your character. As James Hetfield. Most people don't know this about you, Secrona, but you play the guitar and the bass as well. So I thought you find it actually kind of cool anyways that you could do that in the game.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah. So, and you got to pick a lot of music anyways that you enjoy listening to. So it really kind of melded really well with your character. And I think homebrew does that better than any other kind of artifact you can find.
That's true. I'll give you that one, Zeckthar.
Okay. Well, thank you. Real quick. So moving on anyways to our last subject anyways, we're going to be discussing those crazy creatures, including our favorite enemies, friendlies, and some of the NPCs that you guys got to play. Why don't we go ahead and start with enemies? Who were your guys' favorite enemies?
Gary!
I thought you might mention him. Why? Why was he one of your favorite enemies?
Bing! Bleep! James. James, I'm in hell. Get me out of here. Not right now. Okay. Bleep. James. I'm crossing the bridge. Get me out of here. No. Okay. Bleep. James.
If I recall right, though, I think you did get back at him a little bit because didn't you have him like eat like a toxic mushroom?
I think it was like,
Or no, a psychedelic mushroom.
he's like, James, I found these mushrooms. I talked to one of the people we were with. It's like, yeah, no, he shouldn't eat those ones. Those weren't gonna get those effects. All right, Gary, eat the mushroom. Okay.
And then if I recall right, though, it was humorous, but it kind of turned against you too because he kept blinging in ways throughout the rest of that episode, and he was just like, he was out of his mind. He was tripping hard.
James, how are you, man? How you doing? Look, I just need to talk to you for a second, man. This connection I'm feeling with you right now. How many mushrooms did you eat?
One.
One.
My personal favorite, anyways, to fight was always kind of the Baylor. Just simply because I always got this picture, anyways, of the Lord of the Rings. The Balrog. And when you look at the description, anyways, of a Baylor, they're pretty much a Balrog. And so, just being able to fight one of those things has always been kind of cool. And they're normally pretty hard, but to your point, anyways, Secrona, about artifacts. If I recall right, when you guys were like level 10 or 11 or something like that, did you guys take on like 2 Balrogs and you just kind of beat the crap out of them?
One of them was a challenge, but I can't remember. Someone got on top and like hit the back of the head of one of them and just completely cleaned it out. It was like crit and double damage, and it's dead. Okay, well, there's one. Guess we're fighting another one now. I don't even remember how we managed to do it.
Yeah.
I just remember somehow we hit it in the back of the head. I don't remember what transpired after that, but then it just died.
Well, what about you, Yuksen? What was your favorite character to fight?
My favorite was probably the frog myth.
The frog myth. I forgot about that thing.
What's a frog?
Which is surprising, since did it eat you?
Yep, it did. It did indeed.
So frog myth is kind of like this giant toad thing with tentacles. I know it's called frog myth, yet it has tentacles. Tentacles, this long tongue, and 3 eyes stuck on the top of its head. And one of its abilities is to snag someone with their tongue and then swallow them.
I got better.
Yeah.
She turned me into a newt. What?
I got better.
I don't think you guys ever actually did have to face a witch, did you?
No, we never actually fought a witch.
I think you guys fought a lich at one point.
Yes, and that was annoying. We also fought, was it?
No, wait. Oh, yeah, we did.
What was the vampire lord that we faced?
Vlad.
Vlad the Impaler, yeah. And we got his sword. Which I don't know why we gave him this weapon, but yeah, let's just give one of the party members a sword that deals 4d12 base damage.
Originally gave it to the monk because that made sense.
We gave it to the monk because we didn't know who else to get. We were gonna give it to the bard. Let's give the guy with a -5 strength modifier, who's also a halfling. Let's watch him try to wield this giant FL sword.
I think Yuksen, you actually made a debate on actually having James have it. You should have it. It's going to be like, what am I going to do with it? It's a giant sword. It's bigger than me.
You take it. Well, what am I going to do with it?
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. More than I will, probably. At least you can hold the dang thing.
And then we end up giving it to the later usable NPC,
which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Now, if I recall right, in that campaign, you guys pretty much fought about every single creature in the monster manual, right?
Well,
it was
everything that happened to come up across us. Yes. By the end, we started becoming like, if it tries to attack us, we'll just murder it. Just
What in that campaign? What were the hardest enemies that you guys had to fight?
Athena.
Athena.
Fair enough. I was gonna say also her Imperiums were pretty tough too.
Her perms were tough, but again, Athena.
Good point. Was there any other ones, anyways, that you were just like, geez, can we actually beat this thing?
Early levels, we kept getting thrown dragons, which were not fun.
Right.
Or the angels, which is where we lost the first character that this one guy was using.
The
new user was using.
You're like, and he's dead.
But he wasn't dead. He got sent to hell, which is great.
No. That's something else.
No, not Gary. When you guys fought the angels, you had we created 2 new NPCs for you guys, and one of them was a Falk. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Falk Ranger,
and ended up being used by the new player, and then
I don't remember the new player using him. That's the weird part.
No, not the new player, because he hadn't started playing yet.
No, he hadn't started playing until he made Gary. So I think it was actually you, Yuksen, who was controlling him. And then he just got obliterated. First combat.
Well, he wasn't obliterated because we took him and put him in a bag of holding.
Right.
And did we ever do anything with it, Yuksen? Did we ever do anything with that body?
Yes, you did. I recall, right? Leroy ate him.
No. Those were the angel parts that Leroy ate.
Oh. I thought he also ate the Falk guy, too.
No, I don't think he did.
Extra rations. What? Yeah.
I mean, that's the nice thing about having a giant shark with you. His rations are pretty much anything you kill.
Yeah. So we're thinking, obviously, anyways, the angels are really tough, if I recall right. And normally, anyways, when you guys came up against something, anyways, that was super tough, it was because I didn't understand, anyways, how tough they were when they started.
Starting from the very beginning with the death of James Hetfield's brother after one blow.
Ifrit versus 3 bandits, like, it shouldn't be that hard. Like 3 turns in, and your character's dead. This was a mistake.
Okay, so earlier, Secrona, you were talking about I threw a lot of dragons at you guys at the beginning of that. What do you guys think of dragons? Obviously, we kind of have to talk about them because the game is, after all, called Dungeons and Dragons.
Dragons are fun enemies to go against. Maybe not so much when you're just starting out. Level 3, kind of terrifying. Especially when you're thrown, it's like, okay, well, now you're going to fight a blue dragon, and then an adult red dragon, and then an adult black dragon, and then an ancient white dragon.
No, we never fought a red one. We fought a black one.
We fought a red one too. That's the one where I got my guitar. It's the one I got my. We invaded its horde. That's the one where you tossed me at.
All right, I killed a kobold by throwing you.
I was like, "Throw me. We've got this." You're like, "Okay." Yeet.
Hang on a second. You guys didn't kill the red dragon, though, did you? I think you just stole his stuff and took off.
No, we ended up having to fight him.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Well, you guys did all right then.
I don't remember if we had to fight the blue dragon though. I thought we did. I remember there was one blue dragon. There was 2 blue dragons we encountered. One we didn't ever fight, but there was one
you didn't. Go ahead.
There was one that we did fight, and that one was just an adult blue dragon. I think we did kill it. That fight was less memorable because, again, nothing really significantly happened besides we killed the blue dragon. But then there was the big, terrible black dragon which was right after the red dragon. So I was just learning to use my guitar at that point. And then we got to the top of the mountain, and it's like, oh, by the way, frost giants. Also, ancient white.
Right. Well, okay. So hang on. In my defense, the blue dragon, if I recall right, the one that you're talking about, you came across 2 blue dragons, if I recall right. The first one you came across, though, was just a juvenile.
I think
And
so.
then-
We also came across a green worm.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
one you guys fought was the green worm, and then you guys fought a juvenile blue, and then the black
ancient-
dragon, I think,
Oh.
was an adult.
That one was an adult. I think that one was
Yeah.
adult, and I think the red one was also an adult.
right.
Which thank
And
goodness
then-
for that, because I looked up later on the stats for the ancient variants of those, and we would have been cooked.
Yeah, you guys would have died.
Let's see, we're level 3 and we're facing ancient red dragons, so we're making new characters today. I see how it is. Thank you, thank you, DM. I appreciate this. I
Not
love the
tonight
artwork.
and about right now. Because in one turn, we're probably all dead.
Apparently, the DM did not like the way this story was going, and it's decided to scrap the whole project. But the other, if I recall right, the other blue dragon you guys came across was an ancient blue, and you guys didn't kill it. If I recall right, he sucked you into like a time warp, and you ended up back in time like 5,000 years or something ridiculous like that. And that's where you,
that was a fun experience.
And that was Gary's fault.
yeah. I think it was. I think everything that bad happened, anyways, to you guys, it was Gary's fault.
It's like, Gary, why? Why have you done this to us?
I'm
Last words we heard before Gage sent back in time. Fascinating.
Okay, and if I recall right, the last dragon that you guys fought on that mountain, so you guys were steadily going up, and there was more and more dragons, right?
Yes.
So the dragons were just getting bigger, which was actually part of the story. And the very top, anyways, you come up against this ancient white dragon. But if I recall right, the reason why you guys survived that, well, along with a bunch of like frost giants, and if I recall right, the reason why you guys survived that,
the most dangerous part.
yeah, was twofold. One was that you used that spell Stairway to Heaven, and you got a couple of the frost giants to end up fighting for you.
Yep.
And on top of that, anyways, the guy that has been leading you all the way up this mountain turned out to be a gold dragon, an ancient gold dragon. He ends up helping you.
Yes. That's the only reason why that fight wasn't as bad as it could have been. But I'm just wondering what would have happened if if he had somehow like died before we got up to the top, and we got to the top anyways. It's like, oh,
that would have been the end of James and Scabbin.
I just remembered the jelly bean thing.
The jelly bean thing.
The jelly bean.
Yes. How what were they? I think they were giants.
Oh, the frost
It's
giants.
like-
They kept calling me Jelly Bean. That's right.
Jelly bean. Let's get the
Bean. Oh no, those were the Yetis, weren't they?
No, they're not the Yetis.
Are you sure they weren't the Yetis?
Yeah. Because you couldn't even communicate with the Yetis. I could because I was a monk.
Speaking of which, if I recall right, the Yetis were actually one of those strange type of enemies that turned out to be friendlies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of your favorites, if I recall right, Yuksen, his name was Mongo.
Yes. Of which I had a competition with, actually.
It's
Two
three
competitions.
challenges, right?
Yeah.
Was it three? I thought it was two. I thought one of them was a race. One of them was a contest of strength.
And then the other one I think was just a brawl.
All right.
It was something, yeah. Yeah, and then the other one was wrestling.
Wrestling.
If I recall
Sorry,
right.
wrestling.
And I think you won 2 out of the 3, and therefore, anyways, I think they sheltered you from like a blizzard, and they helped you up the rest of the mountain.
Taught one of them how to play the drums, and we formed a band for a night.
I remember that. Oh, good old James.
I can make anyone a musician if I want to. Nothing's going to stop me from performing.
So speaking of friendlies, anyways, Secrona, who's your favorite friendly that you've come across that was kind of like an NPC, but not really? Real quick, anyways. So to me, anyways, an NPC is someone, anyways, that fights by your side and works with you. A friendly, on the other hand, is someone that either A, gives you quests, or they give you gold or something like that, or they're just an intricate part of the story, but they don't really do anything other than they're an interesting part of the story.
I think most people would still consider that an NPC, but I get what you're saying.
Okay.
No. Probably one of my favorites, besides who we're going to be talking about later, would have to be Vasily, who was I want to say dark elf, if I recall correctly. A dark elf assassin who Somehow, James managed to befriend him. It was.
I think it was the other way around. I think Vasily befriended James.
Yeah, I think it was. Somehow he won over James. I don't know how that happened, but every single time he popped in, it was just cigarette,
Vodka.
vodka. Comrade, I see you're in a spot of trouble. How may I help you today?
And I think, didn't he end up sending you guys on like a bunch of different quests?
He did, yes.
And he helped you out, but it always ended up with Vasily somehow, anyways, coming out on top and making more money.
Yes.
So it's kind of a mutual benefit for both of you guys. Okay, so did you, by the way, Yuksen, have any other favorite friendlies?
No, not right offhand.
Okay, well, if you think of one, let us know. But moving on to our last kind of grouping, anyways, of these crazy creatures. Talking about now NPCs, what I call NPCs. And so, what were your guys' favorites? My personal favorite was the one I threw in there. He's just simply known. I think it's the Spartan from the Isle of Rome, and he was just kind of like this. He was a Spartan. He was just kind of. He was a big beefy Spartan, anyways, with a giant spear and a shield. And
How do you describe a guy called the Spartan? Well, you see, there's this class of warriors back in the day called Spartans.
Yeah. You know, they worked in Greece, lived in a land called Sparta.
There's one that was played by Gerard Butler.
Yeah, in a movie called 300. And anywho, and he was an interesting character for me to try to develop because he was just completely and utterly just stoic. He didn't really like anybody because he thought everybody was kind of underneath him because he was a Spartan and everybody else was just kind of like, whatever. But he still needed your guys' help to get back his buddy, if I recall right, Robin Hood from Athena.
Oh, he had two buddies. He had Robin Hood and I believe it was
Wallace.
Wallace.
Yeah, William Wallace. And that's why you guys got in a fight with the Angels, if I recall right.
Yes.
You were trying to save William Wallace. And if I recall right, you guys were trying to sneak in and grab him. And then someone blundered a roll or something. And then the Angels all kind of woke up.
Oh, the Falk.
You know, the one that's supposed to be the sneaky of us.
Yeah.
If I recall right, that's one of the reasons why you guys didn't really care that he died. Just like,
It's
right.
That's such a shame. Well, we'll try to res him at some point. Into the bag.
Yeah. Into the bag.
But afterwards, we took the bow, the Angel's bow, and then we basically just took everything. The Angels, the campfire, the everything.
Literally everything, including the dead bodies, which came in handy later.
So you have a bag
Your
of
rations.
I still remember at one point, anyways, didn't you guys take like the head of an ancient dragon so you could just show people? You just stuffed it into the bag of holding.
Yes.
After a while,
Yes,
we
we
just started
did.
taking the heads of whatever we killed. It's like, oh, well. Baylor, thunk. Let's see. Vlad the Impaler, thunk. Ancient Dragon, thunk.
And if I recall right, so the Spartans' two buddies, anyways, that was the whole quest that you guys were on, was to save his two buddies, and you accomplished William Wallace, but Robin Hood was already in the halls of Athena, and he died. If I recall right,
Yep.
he died pretty quickly. I think he got smashed into paste by an Imperium. But who is your favorite NPC there, Yuksen? We will get to you, Secrona, but we all know who you're going to talk about, and I wanted to save that for last. So, who is your favorite, Yuksen?
Demon spells. No. Anyways, mine was he was a folk leader of a group that became a wandering bard named Kisu the Blade. He was a bard from the College of Swords.
Jeez. You're not going to let me live that one down, are you?
Never do, Yuksen. Never do. Never give him an inch.
Thank you, Secrona.
You're welcome.
What did you like about Kisu the Blade?
He was just a well-rounded character. He wasn't like he wasn't extremely engaging, but he wasn't like aloof either.
Who are
the
you
way
going to
that
talk
can
about,
go.
Secrona?
Well, mine definitely has to be. Wait, hold a second. Do you hear that? Time's up. Let's do this. Live on dragons.
And he did like chicken.
He did, in fact, like chicken and angels and dragons and anything else that was crunchy that he could get his mouth on. For people who don't know, this was a brewed race of beings called the Ushaka, giant shark people.
Sharks.
The land sharks. So, unfortunately, not played by Chevy Chase, unfortunately. But,
Candygram.
yeah, I'm actually a dolphin, ma'am.
Oh, well then.
But he was an 8-foot tall giant shark man. So he always like, to put in retrospect, until he showed up, Skaven, the half orc monk, was the tallest person with like what 6'6", something like that.
Yeah.
He was tall, and then came the Ushaka, who was literally over a foot taller than he was. It's just, oh, why? Why is he so big? But he was, again, obviously he had was kind of like he sounded like Bruce from Finding Nemo. So, thick Australian accent.
I forgot about that.
He was a hunter. He was the only multi-class character that I ever got to tamper with. He was mostly barbarian, but he was also a fighter with a little bit of ranger since he was supposed to be a hunter. And just the interactions of him like talking to people, just like terrifying people whenever he came in proximity of them. Always talking about if he can eat anything he comes across. Kind of like picture essentially exactly like a smarter version of King Shark from the latest, what is it, Suicide Squad. Unfortunately not voiced by Sylvester Stallone. But yeah, no, he was just a fun character to tamper with. And again, he ended up getting the giant beater of a sword that just did 4d12 consistently.
Because it was the only person who really could wield it to any benefit.
It's true. It was great. And if I recall correctly, we also gave him the angel bow.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah.
So he got like the two most overpowered weapons we could have had, and they both went to Leroy's. Like, you know what? You're a big, strong guy. Here you go. Cool.
That's probably why he survived so long.
Secrona, I hate to say it, but all good things must come to an end, and this is the end for us.
You're not going to atomize me, are you?
Of course not. Yuksen is simply telling you that our time on the Vox is up. Trust me when I say this. We never atomize our friends, especially one as dear as you.
What about Francis Esponia?
Well, that's different. He deserved it. The bugger tried to steal your black hole lamp.
True. And Secrona, you would never do something like that, right?
No, of course not. You are my friends. Which you're a little homicidal. Why would I jeopardize our own friendship over a meager lamp? Or my life?
You see, Yuksen? We can trust Secrona.
I always knew that. Secrona is a most trusted friend. Would you like to give your pitch for your channel now, sir? Perhaps Zeckthar will take notes so we can do it better for our bots.
Now see here, brother.
The Rock God welcomes you to join him on his YouTube channel. My fellow listeners, if you enjoy funny skits and gaming live streams, then you need look no further than my channel. Just go to youtube.com/SECRONA, hit the big red button, and enjoy a future of laughs. And until I see you on the other side, rock on!
I will admit it. It's quite enjoyable to see a master at his craft.
Indeed. Also, please don't forget to follow and subscribe to our bots.
Until next time, this is Zeckthar.
Yuksen
And Secrona.